Hi, friends. This is the reading lesson for third grade. You need your booklets open to page 12, and you need a pencil and a highlighter. The story that we're going to read today is called Thomas Edison. It Sings. And here we have another biography. Think about it. What is a biography? Do you remember? Well, a biography is something that explains the life of somebody, but it is written by somebody else. So, somebody else, an author, is going to tell us all about Thomas Edison's life. And as we are reading, you're going to do some highlighting on your own today. And when you're highlighting, I want you to look for what things led Thomas Edison to be a great inventor. So, how did his life experiences help him with his inventions? And how did his personal qualities, his characteristics, the type of person he was, how did that make him a great inventor? So, we are going to read the story together. I will give you time to highlight, and then we are going to write 4 main ideas today. And then tomorrow we will finish the story and write 4 more main ideas. All right, so if you are ready, we will get started.
Extended Read 1. Remember to annotate as you read.
Thomas Edison. It Sings by Elizabeth Michaels. Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Thomas Edison. American inventor Thomas Alva Edison was born on February 11th, 1847, in Milan, Ohio. He was the 7th and youngest child in his family. People called him Al as a boy after his middle name. Edison barely spoke a word until he was almost 4 years old. After that, he started asking many questions about how things worked. One of his most common questions was just one word: why? His parents tried to answer all his questions, but sometimes they simply did not know the answers. It was Edison's curiosity that helped him become a great inventor.
Edison was born in this house in Ohio in 1847.
All right, friends. So we already heard a lot of things about Thomas Edison and what led him to be a great inventor. So go ahead and do some highlighting in paragraph 1. Pause the video. All right, friends, I'm going to show you what I would have highlighted. You can use these highlights as well. Maybe some of them were the same. And if you want to add, you can. And if you feel like yours is good enough, then you don't have to. So I'm going to highlight, even though it doesn't really tell us about why he's a great inventor, I'm just going to highlight when he was born. So he was born on February 11th, 1847. In Ohio. That just gives us some background on Thomas Edison. Now, it tells us that he was the youngest of 6 or 7 total kids, but he barely talked until he was 4 years old. Okay, so most kids start talking, after they turn 1 and they start making sentences. He didn't talk till he was 4 years old, probably because he had so many siblings to talk for him, right? But when he did start talking, he constantly was asking questions. So he started asking many questions about how things worked. And one of his most common questions: why? Why does that do what it does, right? He always was trying to figure things out, why they worked, how they worked. But it says in this very last sentence, it was Edison's curiosity that helped him become a great inventor. Okay? All right, so now we're going to read paragraphs 2 and 3. Actually, let's switch it up today. Let's write our main idea. because we're going to be learning about all different parts of his life. So why don't we write a main idea for this first paragraph? What did we learn? We learned that Thomas Edison was very what? Did you say curious? I hope so. But yes, he was very curious. From the age of 4, when he started talking, he was constantly asking questions. Why? Why does it work? How does it work? Right? So we can say from an early age, so when he was young, right? Edison, and we'll just reference him by his last name since we know exactly who we're talking about, was curious about how things worked. That definitely leads us to why did he become such a great inventor? He was always curious about how things worked. So go ahead and pause the video and finish writing that. And then when you're ready, press play. We're going to keep reading.
A curious mind. At 7, Edison went to school in a one-room schoolhouse with children of all ages. The teacher thought there was something wrong with Edison because he questioned everything. He also did poorly in mathematics and had speech problems. After 3 months, Edison's mother removed him from school. She decided to teach him at home. She knew her son was smart and needed more attention. For years, Edison was happy learning at home. He loved reading all kinds of books. By the age of 12, Edison started asking his parents very hard questions about science. They did not know the answers. Unfortunately, Edison could not return to school because he had severe hearing problems. He was completely deaf in his left ear and 80% deaf in his right ear. So he continued to learn on his own. His favorite subject became the new technology of the time, electricity.
Edison grew up very curious about the world.
Fascinating, right, friends? So Edison had some trouble in school, right? So his mom started to teach him, but then he kept asking those questions, right? And he needed more. But he couldn't go back to school because he was deaf in one ear and mostly deaf in another ear. So he started teaching himself. So all of those things contribute to why he is the inventor that he is. So I'm going to have you pause the video and go ahead and highlight some things that you find are important that lead us to know why he was such a great inventor. All right. So I'm going to show you what I think is important and I'm going to highlight. You can use some of mine. And if you want to add to yours, that's great. And if you feel like you have enough, that's also fine too. So we know that he went to school, but the teacher thought something was wrong with Thomas Edison because he questioned everything. Have you ever had a teacher say, "What's wrong with you? Why do you ask so many questions?" No. You're supposed to question, right? You're supposed to ask why and how. That is being a good learner. Okay? So, obviously, this teacher didn't seem to mesh really well with Thomas Edison. So then his mother started teaching him at home, right? So I'm going to highlight Edison's mother decided to teach him at home. Okay. So, he loved reading, and readings always make you smarter, right? Reading books makes you smarter because you're learning all different kinds of information. So we should probably highlight that. And then it says, but by the age of 12, Edison started asking his parents hard questions about science. So we know that he is getting super interested and he's asking too many hard questions and his parents don't know the answers. But then what did Edison start doing? He started to learn, or continued rather, to learn on his own. And his favorite subject? Electricity. All right. So let's stop there. And maybe you want to highlight too that he was deaf. I bet this plays a role in his learning and his inventions, right? Because if he was deaf, he had to adapt and learn how to deal with being deaf and still learning and figuring things out and testing things. And we know he's a scientist, right? So he is going to be dealing a lot with electricity, as we learned is his favorite subject. All right, so let's go ahead and put our highlighters down and we will write a main idea about this section. Okay, so we know this is mostly about his schooling, right? So let's start from the beginning. So we know that Edison didn't do well in school. So his mother decided to what? She taught him at home, right? Okay. And until what age? Do you remember? 12, right? And then once he was the age of 12 and he started asking those really hard questions, what did he do? Then he began to teach himself. All right. When you are ready, go ahead and turn the page and we will keep on reading.
Young inventor. As a young teen, Edison tried to earn some money for his family. He handed out flyers or advertisements that asked people to vote for Abraham Lincoln as the next American president. He also learned how to send telegraphs. Telegraph messages were sent along electric wires as a series of clicks and blips. These were then translated into a code of dots and dashes. At 15, Edison moved to Boston, Massachusetts to be a telegraph operator. He translated the coded messages that came in to the office. At the same time, Edison continued to work on his own projects. He came up with his first patent, an electric voting machine. The only problem was that his machine did not sell. Edison was disappointed. After that, he decided he would never waste time inventing things that people would not want to buy.
The telegraph machine, invented by Samuel Morse in 1844, used a code of dots and dashes to indicate letters of the alphabet.
All right, friends. So we know that Edison started working and trying to earn money for his family. And in doing so, he started learning how to send telegraphs, right? And we learned in our readings last week that the telegraph sends messages along electric wires that use clicks and blips, right? So we had learned that with Alexander Graham Bell. And so Edison learned how to do that. And then he started doing some inventions. And then he got really disappointed. So I want you to take a minute and highlight what you think is important in paragraphs 4 and 5. And then we're going to write a main idea. So pause the video. All right. So we should probably mention that he learned how to send telegraphs. And he ended up becoming a telegraph operator. at the age of 15 when he moved to Boston, right? So at 15, he was a telegraph operator, okay? But as he was doing that, he still continued to work on his own projects, right? And he even had his first invention that we have learned about, and it was an electric voting machine. And he was pretty bummed out, right? Because this voting machine did not sell. And so he decided he would never waste time inventing things that people would not want to buy. So I bet that leads us to where he goes next. So let's go ahead and write our main idea for these two paragraphs. And we know that Edison was working to earn money, but also working on his own projects, right? This one's pretty simple. So while working to earn money, Edison worked on his own projects. Remember, he was constantly learning, asking why, and asking how. All right, when you are done writing that, go ahead and press play on the video and we will continue.
Edison said about inventing, "I find out what the world needs. Then I proceed to invent it."
The laboratory. Edison moved to New York City in 1869. 2 years later, he developed the universal stock printer. This machine was a new type of stock ticker. It sent the most current prices for company stock shares through telegraph wires. A printing device at the other end printed out the prices on a long ribbon of paper. The telegraph company paid Edison $40,000 for his improved machine. It was his first successful invention. With the money from his stock ticker and other inventions, Edison opened a laboratory in Menlo Park, New Jersey. He hired talented scientists to help him develop and test new inventions. "Inspiration can be found in a pile of junk," Edison once said. "Sometimes you can put it together with a good imagination and invent something."
All right, so let's grab our highlighters again. And now we are learning more and more what Edison is working on. And I want to make sure that you highlight this caption up here. Edison said about inventing, "I find what the world needs, and then I proceed to invent it." So that goes back to the thing he said in paragraph 5, where he wasn't going to waste time inventing things that people didn't want to buy. So now he kind of has a different outlook, right? He is going to figure out what the world needs and then invent that thing. Amazing. Fascinating, right? All right, so go ahead and pause the video and highlight in paragraphs 6 and 7. Okay, friends, so let's check back and see what you highlighted. You can join me and highlight what I highlight, or maybe yours is good enough. So we know that Edison moved to New York City, and then he worked on this thing called the universal stock printer. So 2 years later, he developed the universal stock printer. It was a new type of stock ticker. So it sent current prices for company stock shares through the telegraph wires. So being this telegraph operator kind of helped him with this invention. And then a printing device at the other end printed out prices on a long ribbon of paper. So remember, this is a long time ago. So all these things, we don't use them now, but they were really important back then. And it says that the telegraph company paid Edison $40,000 for his improved machine. So this was his very first successful invention in 1871-ish. So then Edison's probably feeling really good, right? He got paid for his invention that was helping stock shares and using the telegraph wires. And so then he decided to open up a laboratory. He needed space to work, right? And he hired some talented scientists to help him develop and test some new inventions because he needed a team, right? So the team helps him gather things. They can look through junk, whatever, and find new inventions. Okay. So, last main idea for today. I'm going to start it for you, and then you're going to finish it and submit it on campus. So, using the money he earned from selling his universal stock printer. Ooh. Edison, what? Go back into paragraph 7. What did he do with that money that he got from his stock printer? You're going to finish this sentence. Remember, we're not copying. You're coming up with your own words, and then you're going to read it on Canvas. All right, friends, that is it for today. Great job. See you later.